Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out here on this little YouTube channel. And if you could subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Hit that notification button, and you get a little notice anytime we put a video up, whether you're talking some Heat, talking some Finns. Very excited for football season. Or little fighting interviews, little fight coverage, whatever, dude. This is whatever piques my fancy, and I appreciate everybody who tunes in here. I'd really appreciate it, too, if you subscribe to the WQAM YouTube page. Watch Tobin and Leroy every single day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we like to get silly with it, people. Like to get silly with it. I got some fun guests at the end of the week, too. I think you guys are going to dig, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, we're still stay tuned on Dame Watch, which has now hit day 19, 18, whatever. Because it was what is that considered? It was July 1st. Who cares? The point is, we're going over 2 weeks now of Damian Lillard watch. Today, this has been the week of there's no movement. There's really been no news at all, other than some quibbling about Tyrese Maxey and Tyler Hero, which I don't even really know what we're doing there. Didn't they already come out at the beginning of the summer, and the Phillies 76ers were like, oh, we're not dealing him for anybody, nobody, off the table. I did find funny though Daryl Morey going on Philadelphia radio this week and being like, we're not just going to give James Harden away for anything. We want a really good player back. Blah 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 blah. Same posturing that you heard from Cronin, which is funny for Daryl Morey because it's like he looks at this monster that he created in James Harden. Very talented basketball player, but also very entitled and has been. Nobody's gotten their way more in trades than James Harden, which I kind of find, which that's the thing I kind of find unfortunate. Everybody in Heatland is like, oh, he has a one-team list. Why isn't everybody mad at him? And it's like, I would guess because James Harden is just a notorious pain in the ass and a choke artist. So that's why it's just under the umbrella of, oh, we'll just accept it. And Damian Lillard, great guy. We still think that he deserves a real chance at contending. We won't think that he's going to actually poop the bed. So that's my guess of it. Also, it just comes down to, their hate for anything good happening in Miami anyway, which I think is funny. Here's a funny thing about that. We've gotten to the point where it's so funny. It's like, it's funny the way your emotions are the day that the trade demand happens and you're just like, let's just make it happen, dude, whatever. And then you got to like the week of, oh, we think the deal's everybody yells about the Heat being the only team. And then you get to the point where like, okay, this is what they're going to have to accept. And then you get to the point where the Heat fan gets a little bit greedy and they're like, well, I don't want to give up that. We got the screws to them. And the only thing I'll say to that, everybody kind of keeps throwing that out there. And I feel like the Heat are playing a little bit of hardball here. The only thing that gives me a little bit of angst in the back is I go back and I think back to the Jimmy Butler Minnesota deal and thinking that, yeah, for sure Jimmy Butler's going to be here. And then eventually, Pat Riley and Tom Thibodeau kind of had it out. And Jimmy Butler wasn't on the Heat that year. You had to wait for Jimmy. You eventually got him, and you got him, I guess, for cheaper, but you had to wait a year. So that is the one thing of angst I have with the Damian Lillard thing. But it is funny, like Jimmy Butler, I don't know if you guys have seen this, he's on his tour in China. And I guess he's shooting some hoops. And Jimmy Butler, being the absolute troll that he is, goes out there and he hits dude on the court with the Dame time. So, like, he's out there, he is shooting buckets, and then wouldn't you know it, he is going out there and he hits him with the Dame time. Crazy, dude. So I just thought that was a hilarious thing that's going out there. That he is even in the midst of all of this, who can you find to troll on things? Jimmy Butler. He's gone out there. He'll put the Damian Lillard song on his playlist or on his story, and now hit him with the wrist and the bye off the court. So hilarious stuff from Jimmy Butler. I don't know if people saw this. I'd imagine they did. It was Jimmy Butler did an interview in China with CCTV, And I was excited about this because I was just perusing. I was like, oh, Jimmy Butler, China. Like, YouTubed it. And I saw this sit down. And the first thing that I noticed that actually like piqued my interest in it was not just Jimmy Butler, but he was doing the interview with Li Jingliang, who is the Leech. He's a UFC fighter. I was trying to explain this to Leroy the other day. Like, Li Jingliang is like, I wouldn't call him a contender, but I just like a super exciting fighter. Like, he's good, but I don't know if he's ever going to be champion. But like, he's got some really exciting knockouts. He's a really fun fighter. And he was part of the trio there. Like, one of them was a gentleman who was one of the players on the national team. Then you had the one journalist there who was doing the interview, and then you had the Leech. He was doing the interview, and he was asking a lot of questions. He was asking Jimmy Butler who likes to fight, and he was asking some good stuff to Jimmy. So that made me very excited that Jimmy Butler was doing a sit down. Anytime UFC and Miami Heat cross paths, like when Kyle Lowry last year was working at the facility, and Bam Adebayo was doing face offs with Deontay Wilder, like that's goosies galore for me, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I love when those worlds come together. But Jimmy said a couple of things. I'll play the clips for you here that I found to be probably the most interesting from this thing. And one of them was the idea of playoff Jimmy and feeling like he needs to be even better with that next year.
And you are Jimmy. So, I mean,
I don't think there's a secret to it, honestly. I just think you have to play your best when your best is needed. And that's what I would like to think that Miami brought me there for, was to help them win a championship. And you can't win a championship without playing great throughout the playoffs. We fell short. But I know that we can make it happen. So next year is going to be our year. And if this playoff Jimmy is a real thing, then he needs to be much better next year.
So saying that he has to be much better next year, which is, here's the thing that's interesting with Jimmy. That Denver series and how they guarded Jimmy and how they did against Jimmy. Like, yes, we all feel like Jimmy was a little bit out of gas by the end of things, but even Riley said, like, he thought Denver strategically did a good job against it. Like, he wasn't just giving Jimmy the pass of, oh, Jimmy Butler was banged up. Not that Jimmy Butler would ever want that. So I do feel like this element of Jimmy, it was an overall fantastic playoff run. His ability to carry the Heat and instill confidence in the rest of those guys, which you talked about a little bit in this interview as well. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a really great sit down. It's like an hour long. But the fact that it's not just, hey, I was banged up, not that, or we're just leaning on the injury. Like, yeah, you do have to give Denver some credit. Even like Bruce Brown was saying the other day, he goes, yeah, we felt like we let up in that game too. And normally stuff like that would piss me off, but it's like, what am I quibbling over? A gentleman's sweep. Oh, so they thought it would have been a sweep. Listen, Denver was really freaking good this year. They were, overall the best team in the NBA, and they kind of cruised to the NBA championship. So, if Bruce Brown, wants to say that they, didn't play with the most effort, I kind of would agree with that. Like, if you looked at that game, like the way they play with the defensive effort, it gave, I think, the Heat fan a little bit of a false sense of security going into that game, because you were wondering, with them being hypercritical, like, were they breaking a little bit, And they really, they shut shit down in games, 3 and 4, and obviously, close things out in 5. But, I think that Jimmy, Dame or no Dame, I think is probably thinking to himself, like, it's been a couple finals that I've made where, like, the first one, obviously outgunned, right? Didn't have Goran, had a very, very depleted Bam Adebayo with one good arm. You're got a teenager Tyler Hero, a Duncan Robinson who was kind of going through it, and Kelly Olynyk. So the bubble finals against the Lakers, where he's hunched over and he's given everything that he's got, I think you look at that and you're just like, man, what a valiant effort by Jimmy. But the Denver series, there were, I still think, a couple of games in there where, like, man, they Denver wasn't playing that good, and they had opportunity. They just could never, damn Jokic nearly fouled out of the game, and they couldn't do anything with it. And that you have to credit the Nuggets with. The Nuggets were just better, flat out. And so I think that's probably where he looks at it and says, playoff Jimmy's got to be better. But we did get another patented Jimmy Butler final championship guarantee.
I believe that with all my heart that I will win a championship for the Miami Heat, because I don't plan on playing for another NBA team after the Miami Heat. So I know that we are capable of doing this. I know that the team that Coach Pat and Coach Spo put around me and my teammates, we're going to be fine. We're always going to have an opportunity. This year is our year. I really do believe that. We understand what it takes to get there, and now we just have to get over that hump. And like I said, I'll be better. We'll all be better as a unit. And then the next time I'm talking to y'all here, I'll be a one-time NBA champion.
Goosies, dude. And I know, like, look, for the cynical Heat fan that's like, come on, dude. Jimmy Butler, he's got more guarantees it would make than Joe Namath. Would make Joe Namath blush with how many times he's guaranteed a championship. I get you, but I love that about him. Like, I love the fact that Jimmy Butler always comes at that with the same mentality. You know, it's always, all of this is geared up to win a championship. And it feels, and, you know, even when it's like at the Eastern Conference trophy ceremony, he goes, no, I'll hold the next one. And even if that looks foolish on freezing cold takes, by the end, you know, I just love the fact that that's the mentality he always brings when it's, you know, February and it's a random win. He comes off an injury. He gets a win. He goes, the whole goal of this thing is to win the whole damn thing. And then, you know, you hope that comes to fruition. Although, like, look, now we're at the part of the Damian Lillard saga where now it's like, oh, the Heat aren't even the favorites if they get Damian Lillard. You know, Paul Pierce, we've already been over, you know, his stupid take. But then, like, Kendrick Perkins was now like, oh, well, I still think the Bucks are the favorite. And I got to think that, like, Drew Holiday is still waking up in a cold sweat certain nights thinking about what Jimmy Butler did to him in this postseason. That's just me. But, you know, listen, if Kendrick Perkins wants to think that the Bucks are still the favorite, by all means, I'm sure he's going to pick 9 favorites by the time we get to the finals anyway.